Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Try and Stop Me podcast. Today I have the wonderful, the perfect Kristin Andree on the show. She is the writer of You're Not for Everybody, the book. And I wanted her to jump on the show with us today because her book, her message, her story, everything about it is just right on track with everything that we've been talking about, that we continue to talk about. She is an entrepreneur. She is a badass businesswoman. She is what they call Wonder Woman. She is addicted to Rockstar drink. But all things Intel, Kristen, I'm so happy that you are here with us today. I'm so excited to sit down and talk to you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
glad to be.
This is such a great one. I think this one's going to be very exciting for everybody. So, Kristen's book, You're Not for Everybody. Literally, I mean, everybody knows, everybody has been through some kind of something in their life. At some point, somebody tried to tell them they weren't good enough, tried to make them feel like a certain way. And Kristen's book, when I heard about it, when I saw you start posting about it on Facebook, I was like, oh, we need to have her on the show. This sounds like something that I need to personally read for myself. And I actually did. I think it's just amazing. It's a self-help, motivational, kick you in the ass. You're not for everybody. Kristen, I want to go so far back, but also up to date on what kind of led you to write the book. And then let's talk all about the book because I want everybody to go out and get it because I think it'll be super helpful for so many people.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
It was kind of a long time coming. It's not my first book, but I think what really drove me to write it is I feel like I've made every mistake. I've definitely made every mistake. And when you read it, you'll hear because I am pretty upfront about the mistakes I made. But I spent a lot of decades doing the wrong things and worrying about whatever other people thought of me, or trying to fit, in my own little comfort zone, not standing out, kind of rounding out the edges. And I just got tired of doing that. And once I hit like mid 40s, I was like, okay, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? And I found myself just really embracing me and who I was. And I got mad at myself for it taking that long.
Mm.
So where the book came from is I was like, I want to help other people not do the same thing I did. Like really be able to own who they are and step into it. And if they want to be this big badass person, be that person. And if they want to be just, themselves and quiet, that's cool too. But it's really just getting people to embrace their uniqueness, their
Oh,
unique.
I'm obsessed with that because I think at some point we've all hit a point in our lives that another person or another thing took over our entire lifestyle. We lost who we are. And then you wake up literally one day and you're like, who am I? Like, I don't dance anymore. I don't laugh anymore. I'm not happy anymore. What is going on? And your book, when I was reading it, I was like, this is everything that I mean, I don't have kids or was married, but it was literally the same feelings that you're like, yeah, I got to that point too. Absolutely. Like you have to turn around and you can reinvent yourself. I don't care if you're 21 years old, 35 years old, 57 years old. At some point, when you're so sick of yourself, you wake up and you're going to make the moves to do it. So the book, literally, I was like, yeah, yes, turn the page. Oh, yes, turn the page.
Yeah, and like you said, it sneaks up on you. It's most of my friends that and clients too, because I've a lot of like really crazy successful clients, and in talking with them, they get to this point where like, how the heck did I get here? Like, I don't. You just wake up one day and you're like, this is not what I thought it was going to look like, and most people just keep going. And for me, I was like, I'm divorced, so for me, it was as I was thinking about the divorce and going through it, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being all things for all people except for me. So it was
Mm,
just a matter of, and it wasn't poo pooing anybody else. It was more like, I need to do me. I need to take some time to figure out who I want to be because we
yeah.
lose that a lot of time. I think women are more guilty of it than
Yeah,
men. Losing
absolutely.
who we are.
Yeah, I think I agree with that so much. Well, I do agree. Not even I think I agree with that because I think we're so molded to fit into this society norm of like, you go to school, you get married, you have kids, you're the mom, and then what happens after that? But at some point, whether you went through a divorce, you go through a breakup, you go through something, you're like, wait a minute, I'm not on the track of what society's telling me to do right now. So where am I supposed to turn and what am I supposed to do? I think a lot of people fall off and then they get guilty inside and they're like, how dare I, lose myself? Well, you kind of lost it a really long time ago. So now checking back in, how were you able to like the point that you in the book, you were like, this is it. Like, it's time for me to snap out of it. What did you start to do for yourself to be able to get back on your own horse and say, like, I am my own person before I show up for everybody else?
I think you've got to get clear on who that person is.
Mm,
And we have nudges along the way where we know we're doing things kind of out of our character. And it could be the jobs we're working in, the careers we pursue, the people we hang out with, heaven forbid, the people we date. I mean, we get these nudges where we know it's not us. And most of the time we ignore them. And so part of it is being really honest with yourself, like, this is not me. And a lot of
mhm.
people don't have, I mean, they really don't have the guts to stand up and go, what the heck am I doing? I mean, this is just crazy. So for me, it was just starting to recognize that more and surrounding yourself with people that would call you out on it. Because my friends, I'm pretty social, but my inner circle is pretty darn small. And they will call me out in 2 seconds flat if I'm doing something that's not me. And I don't think I had those people. And
Mm,
definitely younger in life. When we're young, we surround ourselves with yes people. People that are going to say, "Oh my God, you're
yeah.
great. This is perfect. This is fantastic." Those are sucky people to have if that's all you have around you, because they're not going to challenge you when you're not being you. So it's getting real. Being honest with yourself.
Oh, when did that start to flip for you though? Because I think that's a lot of like, I always say that now in challenging time, I mean, we're gonna be real on this podcast, right? In your 30s, you lose the people who kind of were those party friends or they went to like whatever. And now, if you're not the mom, you're also like in that stage of like, all right, now I'm flying solo of a lot of people around. So, how long did it take for you to find your tribe then of those people that would call you out on your bullshit?
Way too late. So I would
Yeah.
say for me, mid or I would say early 40s. Early to
Yeah.
mid 40s is when I found them. I just turned 50 last year, so I'm in a whole new
She
decade.
looks like
I
she's
love,
20.
oh God, love it. It's the lighting. But, but that what was cool about turning it, people were like, oh my gosh, are you upset? I'm like, are you kidding? This is the FU decade. This is the I don't have to care
My
what
mom says
people.
that all the time. Yeah.
Oh my, it's so true. But I think for me, it was in my 40s. But here's what's interesting. It didn't have to be. That was my own fault. I take 100% ownership for that. It's just you can find the people. Like if you want to be 35 and not married, no kids, hell, if you want to be 55 and not married, no kids, that's cool. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. But I think we have these societal norms that we're all trying to fit in. So if we don't, we just kind of get quiet and we don't say anything.
Mm.
Forget that. Say something. There are tons of people out there that are your people. You just got to
Yeah.
find
Yeah, absolutely. So a point in the book when you're talking about people pleasing, that's a trigger word
them.
for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people fall into that, especially when we're younger, because we want to be able to be accepted. We want to be able to fit in. We want to be able to look like we're all perfect. And I think the older that you get, now that I realize like in your 30s more, you start to get to the point where there's like this funny like TikTok or reel, I don't know what it is. And it was like, what's the best thing about being 30? And they're like, you just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
You just don't
Yeah.
care. And it starts to shift. And I think having patience for yourself too, and realizing who you used to be, if you used to be that people pleaser, you
Yep.
don't got to be that way anymore. So, where
No.
did you find yourself? Were you always saying yes? And then you were like, it's time for me to get a piece of paper and a pen and just start writing down everything here that I went through too.
Yeah. And for me, I wasn't a big people pleaser. That wasn't out of all the chapters I talk about. It wasn't my
Yeah.
this one, but I would agree to do things that I hated. Like the example I used in the book, my ex-husband he loved to camp. They would go tent camping. That was a big thing. I'm
Hmm.
talking tent camping, like
No,
no
no.
bathroom, tent camping, hardwood floor. Like you can't wear good shoes. Listen,
No.
you're not wearing heels. I am a shoe maker. I'm a girly girl. I hated it, but I went every time
Mm.
and I didn't complain. And it took me a few years to finally go, I hate this. I don't know if you've noticed, but I cry every time we go. This is awful. But I was doing it because they enjoyed it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There really is nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that I literally hated it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go camp at a hotel. I'm totally good with that. Or we'll go campfires. I love, all that stuff. Awesome. Let me go sleep in a nice warm bed. So it took me to recognize it and say it. But I'm talking about, little things like that are okay. You just got to say when you're not. I'm talking about the people that completely put themselves to the side. Like one of my girlfriends says yes to everything,
Mm.
everything.
Mm,
She takes care of everyone that's sick, everybody's errands, drives the kid, like all the things, and it's just too much, and she's worn out. But
yeah.
she didn't know how to say no. So the people pleasers are the ones that can't figure out how to say no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no's okay. It's okay to say no.
There's a difference too between compromise and people pleasing that I
Yeah.
think people walk on the edge of things. It's compromise for the benefit of the person that you love or the person that you're trying to help, but also don't be the yes person all the time. It's like that movie with who was in Jim Carrey, The Yes Man.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Remember
Yeah,
that movie?
yeah, I
Yeah.
do remember that movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you start to go a little crazy. So in the book, where do you think was your chapter that was like really about you?
Rounding out the edges.
All right, let's
For
talk about
sure.
that.
So the rounding out the edges is I'm a bigger personality. I get that. And what's funny, when I'm by myself, I'm not. And then when I have friends that are bigger personalities than me, I kind of the one I can quiet back. But I feel like so long I was afraid to be me. I was afraid
Mm,
to embrace 100%. I was one of those kids in high school, and I was nerdy smart. Like I was a cheerleader, so that was kind of your stereotype. But I love school. I love learning. I know nerdy things, and I just never really wanted anybody to know all of that because I didn't want to sound too nerdy or too smart. And my
yeah.
dad, I wrote about the book. My dad challenged me on it. One time we were there, and he's like, "Why do you dumb yourself down when you're around, this group of friends?" And I didn't realize I was doing it, but I wasn't embracing me because I didn't want to be too smart. And even now, I have no filter. The thing that keeps people from saying things, mine is broken. So I don't have a
How
filter.
do
So
your girls feel about that?
oh, they hate it. They hate it. But it's, and there's certain quotes and things I use with them, and it's so funny. But I just found over the years I would just kind of soften the edges. I was still me, but just a little less me. Because I'm from the South. I grew up in the South, and girls were supposed to be sweet and quiet and sit there and proper. And that's what happened when we grew up. And so I just learned, because that's how I was raised, to kind of round out the edges. But if you round out the edges, and this is a big famous quote, I say it all the time, if you round out your edges, you lose your edge.
Mm,
And I had to really get comfortable with the fact that what makes me unique and what makes me good at what I do for my daughters, what makes me good at what I do for my clients is the edginess. And I was doing a disservice to everybody by kind of trying to soften it a little bit.
yeah. No, I think most women fall into that. Most women. They absolutely have quieted themselves down, whether in professional, we were talking a little bit about that before,
Yeah.
professional world, at home, if they put on the wife role instead of the partner or the boss partner role,
Yeah.
they quiet themselves. I mean, I've done it. I've definitely fallen into my past experiences, and now it's like this try and stop me podcast. I've actually had somebody say, "Wow, you speak up," and you're like,
I
yeah, I have a voice and I learned
I'm
how to
allowed
find
to.
it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was saying it in the nicest way possible either, and it was kind of like reassuring to be like, well, it's time we show up for ourselves now. And I think I really wish there was like a course in college for girls to be able to go to be like, do
Yeah.
not dim your light, do not quiet yourself down, and you don't have to be on, feminist high horse or
Right.
whatever it is, but you do need to speak up for yourself at some point. And I think we need to start teaching our young girls that. And you do an excellent job with that with your girls. I see it all over social media. Kristen is all over social media. You talk about business, you talk about your girls. Your girls were on the podcast, which Kristen has her own podcast as well. What's it called again?
The renew.
The
I,
Renew podcast.
yeah.
It talks all business, all motivation, everything pretty much that we're talking about in here, but she does it at such a incredible level. But
Some
your daughter
edgy
was on it.
topics in there too, which has been kind of fun because that's
What
stirring
kind of topics?
more edgy ones. Like we're
Yeah.
talking about, we've talked about, I mean, obviously like debt, we've talked about the school system. I kind of blasted that,
Oh.
got some feedback on that one. We're going to be talking about cancel culture because that's a big thing right now. And, it's just all the things, like if we don't talk about these things, we can't improve them.
Yeah, no, I thought I saw your cancel culture about Greece. Have you talked about that yet
That's the
on
one
your
we got that
podcast?
episode coming up. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, with saying that they were trying to get rid of the movie Grease because it was what happened? It was too
It
sexist
was,
or it
it
was
was sexist and misogynistic and racist, I think it said. were the two things that we
Yeah.
talked about.
Well, my opinion, we could go off course here a little bit, is that like the world is still going to be the way it is. So teaching girls what's different now is important, that we can speak our
Sure.
voices and have our round edges, like you were talking about, to be able to then, because men will still be men there. I'm sure you get it. I'm sure every female gets it out in the business world. No matter this whole Me Too movement, there's still those men that you're like, have you not watched the news?
I mean, the sheer amount, I'm sitting here going, and I tell my daughters, it's like the sheer amount of messages I get and DMs and things. And I'm not even talking about Facebook. I got one on LinkedIn the other day. Like, this is a
Yeah.
business site, and I'm an old woman. So, I mean, people are going to be people, and you've got to learn to voice. If you have a problem with something, 100% speak out. I have no problem with people that don't like the movie or want it canceled for them. Cancel it in
Mhm.
your own house. But
Exactly.
let people, let people do themselves. Let people be who they want to be.
Yeah, yeah, you're not for everybody, and that's
Not
what
for
it
everyone.
comes down
Exactly.
for.
You are
Yeah.
not for everyone.
You are not, and you are not gonna be for everybody, and that's the way we just ignore all of those men, and when it comes down to that, they are not for you might
Not
be
my
for
people.
somebody else, not my people.
I
You
say that a lot, and I'll say it with clients or things. And, sometimes even professionally, somebody will be complaining about a client or a prospect or somebody they called on. And I just sit there and go, not your people. Not
Mhm.
your-" And if we just really kept that in mind, there are going to be people we don't agree with. There are tons of people I don't agree with, and I choose not to be around them.
Yeah.
Am I going to spend my time trying to change them? Nope. Because they're probably not going to change. They're just not my people. And that's totally cool. Because
Yeah.
they have their own people. They'll find them.
That is a very important point. Whether it's something with your book is very like internal about ourselves, but it's also that we're not for them either. There's plenty of clients, if we're talking back into business or whatever the world is, where they call and I cringe.
Yeah.
They're not my people, and I'm probably not their people either, because we just don't mesh well together, and that's perfectly, perfectly
But
fine.
the cool thing is there's somebody out there for them. There's somebody
Hmm.
that's going to be as weird, as awkward, as nerdy, as much of a pain in the ass. Because here's the thing, they're pain in the ass professionals that love to work with pain in the ass clients. Put
Yes.
those two together. So
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong. And I think that's where we kind of get off track. And why I did that you're not for everyone is because your people are out there. I don't care who you are. It's just find them. Quit trying to change somebody. And I'll hear that a lot in the dating scene too. Because like I'm single, and so we talk about this. My single
Yeah.
girlfriends and I
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about, and my guy and the guy friends too. It's like we're trying to change them. I'm like, you're not going to change somebody. Once you hit, even like I think 20s moldable, 30s, mid 30s and beyond, you're not changing them. So
Yeah.
I told that to a girlfriend of mine the other day. I'm like, she was complaining about something the guy she was dating. I was like, it's not changing. So you're either going to live with it or you're going to stop complaining about it. Those are your two options.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that with everything, right?
It's so true, and
Because
I
it's not
always say,
gonna.
I say with dating too, it comes down to the flaws that we see in them or find that they're annoying, there's flaws in us too. So expecting that person to be perfect or to be healed from something from their
Yeah,
past, when literally you probably thought about something that triggered you while you were walking down the road, you're not healed. So why are you expecting them to show up 100% when
yeah,
you're not 100% yet? We're all broken pieces walking together like
yep,
little things
yeah.
walking around looking if we're
Well,
gonna fit in together. It's never gonna fit perfectly. So you have to either accept who they are at where they're at and understand they're a work in progress, as long as they're willing to grow and willing to maybe pick the sock up off the floor when you've said it for the 900th time or not. But if they're not, then that's not your person. Then they just like being messy.
but it's, and the cool thing about that is it's a choice. And that's where I feel like people get off track. They spend all this time trying to fix somebody and change.
Yeah.
And I did that before. I did that in my marriage,
Who hasn't? Yeah.
trying to fix things that just wasn't going to happen. It's a choice, so I typically tell people, and I push, this is goes back to kind of finding your tribe of people. I push my friends, I push my clients, I push my daughters on this. If you don't like it, change it. you
Mm.
have you have the right to change it. If it's not changeable, you either got to suck it up or you got to move on. But what
Mhm.
you can't do is just sit there and complain about it for the next 20 years.
Yeah, but so many people do sit there and complain about
For
it for 20
sure.
years
those
because
aren't
it's
those aren't
scarier
my
to make
people.
it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
scarier to make the change and rip the band-aid off, especially when there's, I mean, you've done it, when there's a family and there's a lot more emotion behind everything. You have to learn how to become that stronger person, because if you're going to sit, you get one life. That's all I ever say. Like one life. Whatever you believe in after happens after, but this is the life you've been given right now. You
Right.
continue to waste. You're never getting those. I'm not giving the minute that I just said that back ever again.
Yeah.
So why do you keep continuing to sit in this misery or sit in this dwelling stage when you can literally take this next minute and make that active change forward?
Right. You
Those are the
don't.
people. It's scary.
Yeah, for sure. But even if you don't make a change, not making a change is okay. So if
Yeah.
somebody's listening to this and they're like, I'm not, I'm scared for whatever reason, that's totally fine. Like you don't have to make a change. What you're not allowed to do is if you not making a choice is making a choice. So if you're
Yes.
choosing to stay in whatever situation you don't like, you give up the right to complain about it. So unless you choose to move forward, unless you choose to make a change, you forfeit the right to complain about it.
Mhm.
That's, I mean, and
Mhm.
that was one of the quotes I used in the book because you do. So that's kind of where I get frustrated with people. I'm like, you stay there. I mean, and I have friends who have chosen to stay in a relationship or a marriage that they're unhappy with. And that was a choice they made. And I would never try to talk them out of that choice. But then they forfeit the right to complain. So, my advice to them is hey, if you're going to choose to stay, then let's figure out what you can focus on this positive because you're
Yes.
not going to change those little things. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge point. Having to it's the mind shift. That's what really the everything comes down to. And I love people exactly like you who my people, right? Where everybody is willing to look within themselves and be like, this is where I was falling off track. This is where I was not showing up for myself because number one is ourselves, whether you have kids, whether you are single, whether whoever cares, the person you wake up in the morning is with you all the time. We are our biggest story writers in our own brain. So, our narrative, if we could show up for ourselves, that is what really matters at the end of the day. So, where are we going with this book tour? Are you doing a tour? What are we doing?
you know what? All right. So I was doing a tour, nice little. So this came out last summer, last
Mhm.
July, in the midst of all of our fun
This
pandemics.
past summer.
Right, this past
Yeah.
summer, 2020. So it was, and my, publishing, writing coach, and all them were like, "Are you nuts? You're publishing in the middle of a pandemic." I'm like, "Okay." I chose not to do virtual book launches.
Yeah.
I mean, we posted it on social, it's all that. And a lot of authors were coming out and like they were doing a launch party on Zoom. I was zoomed out. I'm like, I want
Mhm.
to see people. I want to hug them. I want to just, I want to do all the things. So we will do a book tour once cities open up. I live in the South, so we're open down here. Y'all want to come visit? We're good.
Yeah,
Um,
we're gonna come
but I
visit.
think as some of the other cities get back open, we're definitely going to go around and do some different tours because I like meeting people. Like I love finding my people, and
Yeah,
it's
it's a different tribe. It has to be. And
yeah.
Zoom, like you said, everybody is so zoomed out. I'm glad you made that decision. So when you come to New York, Susan and I are going to be the first ones online
Oh
because
my
we're going
gosh,
to be
I'm
like, "Oh my God,
totally.
we
New
need
York
it."
is definitely there. So my daughter's up there now too, living up there. So it's exciting.
Is she where?
She's in White Plains. She's in law school.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right. I do remember I heard that. That's incredible.
yeah, I'm excited for her. So
Good for her. That's amazing.
she's good. It's funny with the girls in the younger generation. I think they're getting better. I feel like the kids in their like teens and 20s now, they're better about finding their people than I ever was. So, you'd asked at what age did I make the change? I did this too late. Like I hope that my message gets to people that are super young so they can start going, let me just start out on the right foot. Let me
Mm.
make sure I'm,
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because social media, they're able to see people's true colors versus
I don't know if you see true colors on social
mm,
media. I think you see a
true.
very highly
But
curated
you can see
highlight reel.
who's like super like very into themselves or who's more
Right.
kind of laid back or
Yeah. I don't know. With my girls, I have always kind of pushed them to be themselves. I have three daughters. They get along well for the most part when they're not killing each other, but they are fiercely different from one another. Like they are so polar opposites from each other. It's funny. But for me, I've just always tried to encourage them to be who they are. Be their authentic selves. And I feel like everything when with growing up, I was, it's the way I was supposed to be.
Mhm.
And they call them grits, girls raised in the South, that we were supposed to be a certain way. So you have to break out of the mold. I never wanted them to have to break out of the mold. I wanted them to find their own mold. So I
Oh,
think that for me,
that's cool.
I don't know if it's me or their dad and I. just the way we raised them. I think that's why. I don't see that from everybody. They're
No.
fiercely confident. One of them's probably got a little bit too much confidence. Well, the
But
world.
I mean, look who they're raised by. How can they not? They have no choice in that matter.
I,
No, they're just three incredible girls from the stories that you talk about online. I have two sisters as well. So we are in the
yeah,
middle of three. And I always say to them, actually, when I was in high school one time, I looked at them and I said, if we weren't sisters, I would not be friends with you guys
that's
because that's
totally
how
different.
polar different we completely are. But then we're the best of friends at the end of the day, which is great because everybody meshes in. You have the very loud one, the very quiet one. I'm in the middle. So it's all a
How do you get a
very
quiet one? I'd like one of those. Actually, one of mine's a little quiet. There's one that's a little more quiet than the other, but
yeah, because is she the younger one?
no, oh God, no. The younger one's the yeah. The middle one's the quietest out of the three. Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see. We will have to see how they turn out. But I love that they embrace their uniqueness. And
Yeah.
I feel like more people, even adults, like, and that's the cool thing is you said earlier, if you're 57, heck, if you're 67, just figure out who you want to be and start
Yeah.
being.
So when for the girls though, when are they ever have like major girl problems with people in their age if they're because if they're strong personalities, right? I'm sure they don't quiet down when something
Yeah.
comes up. So how have you been able to kind of help them tackle the girls of this day and age? Because nowadays it's got to be hard.
That's been a tough one. I would say having girl, I wanted, all right, so you know how when you're young and you plan out how your life is going to look,
Yeah.
and it looks nothing like this. So when I had my little doodle notebooks when I was little, I wanted two boys, 2 years apart. That was what I was going to do. I was going to have children. We were going to get married. They were going to be named Blake and Justin. I had all names.
Yeah.
Two boys, 2 years apart. I have three girls, 11 years apart. So my parenting plans went out the window before I ever had children. So I did not, I was ill-equipped to parent girls. I at the heart of me, I am a boy mom. I wanted
Yeah.
boys. I still want boy. I'm not going to have any, but I'm done. But when I had girls, I didn't know what to do. And then they grow up slowly and you're like, okay. And then high school and middle school hits and girls are mean, like
Hmm.
mean. And I think, and adult girls are mean too. They're girls my age
The
that
moms are mean too.
oh my God. Well,
Oh,
that's the challenge we had is my first two came by relatively unscathed. And then we've got the third one. And she is the loudest out of the three. And by loudest, volume and intensity of what she's saying. Very, very secure in herself. And she will call out things when
yeah.
she doesn't see it right. I mean, if she doesn't agree with it, she's going to argue. If you're picking on one of her friends, she's going to take up for her friends, which I respect. She's also has very strong leadership qualities.
Yeah.
Well, when you're in elementary school and you're a girl, a leader is called what?
Bossy.
Bossy,
Hmm.
bitchy, mean. So she got labeled mean and she wasn't being mean. And, I
Oh,
talked to her and it was kind of she's like, well, I said, well, they said she always has to be in charge. She's like, well, I made a suggestion and nobody else made another one. So I suggested what we do. That's leadership.
yeah.
But to little girls, it's mean. So she had that label for a while and it was tough. And while she had it from the girls, what got my mama bear going, she got that label from the parents. And that's when I had an issue. And that is, and it, we had we had all kind of parent blowout with it because that was the last thing I was going to let them do was label my child. And as a parent, you get mad. And can she be mean and bossy? Yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
But Mama Bear is still going to come in and protect that because I didn't want, and I got challenged. This is why the tribe's important. I was fussing at her. Don't be mean. Don't do this. Don't do that. All the things that people had said to me. And one of my girlfriends, who I'm very close to me, looked at me and she goes, don't squash the spirit out of her.
Mm.
She said, you're doing the same thing to her that people did to you. And I'm like, and until she said it to me,
Oh.
I didn't think about it. And I was like, oh crap, you're right. So that was when I actually went back and pushed back on the moms and it caused all the debacle. But we're past it now. This was a few years ago, but it was tough. It's tough raising girls because you need to understand the difference between someone who is mean and someone who is assertive. And that is
Yeah.
a very hard thing to teach young kids.
Oh, I think that brings you back to rounding edges too, though, to
Yeah.
be able because
And
you're fit and
I was forcing her to round her edges. I'm like,
yeah.
I had not written the book at that point, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it was. I
Wow.
was doing the same thing that people did to me. And so I let, we embrace who she is now. And she's, you know, And I think it'll serve her well. She's got phenomenal leadership qualities that, are hard to manage in a child, but I think later in life will serve her well. And I'm so thankful to my girlfriend for pushing back on me, going, quit squashing the spirit out of her.
Yeah,
And it's the
because
same
that
thing with
confidence.
interest and stuff too. Like we're trying to push everybody go. We did an episode on the educational system. We're trying to push everybody to go to college and do this and be the doctor, lawyer, that. Some people are artsy. Some people would make phenomenal artists and like contribute all this cool stuff to our world, but we smush that out of them too. So it's really
Yeah.
just letting people embrace who they are and helping them uncover it.
I think that's so important, and so important, especially for parents to hear too, especially when their kids are running around probably insane and they're like, please,
Yeah.
shh,
Yeah.
shh.
Well,
But
you
to
know,
be able to say like that, don't squash it out of them because that can then be their future. They need that voice in the future to not feel like, oh, am I too loud? Am I am I stepping out of bounds here?
well, there's still got to be there's a balance because I don't want to be in too loud in the middle of a restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
There's still, and I am the strict parent. I'll be the first one to admit that. They will be second, third, and fourth to admit that. I am. I'm totally strict. I have very, very high expectations for them. But I tell them my expectations are in alignment with what I think they can do
What they could
and
do.
accomplish.
Yeah.
But they still have to be nice humans. Like at the end of the day, I don't want to, it sounds as trivial as it sounds. Don't raise little assholes. It's really,
Mhm.
it's not that hard. Help them figure out what they want to be and help them learn how to be kind to others.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's incredible, and I wish we could just put, like, a go cam on some of these kids so we
Yeah,
could see how they really interact, like, on the playgrounds, in school, so then
yeah,
we can start to learn what we're doing to them as they grow up, because I think that's what we all have went through during our younger years of being pushed to the side or whatnot, to be able to help them kind of embrace those strengths that they have to then use in the workforce or use in their personal lives. That I mean, if you can write a book on that, that'd be great.
yeah. Well, and figuring out what strengths are important because it's hard for a kid to know what strengths to go. I mean, you talk to any middle schooler now or any young kid, excuse me, they think they've got to be this influencer and everything. Ask anybody between the ages of 9 and 12 what they want to be. 90% of them are going to say a YouTube star or
Yes.
TikTok star.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just want, they want to be able, they want to be seen and they want to be heard, which
Yeah.
honestly, isn't that what a lot of us want?
Yeah. And I think that's important that you just said that too, because that's what I hear and that's what I see a lot of the times is they're getting so caught up in their follower count or their likes account or whatever the case is of being able to push it out on social media and whatever the case is, but we were talking about before, there's still careers out there that we need females to show up in. We need,
For
I mean,
sure.
we need females in the insurance world. We need females in the accounting world. We need like back in the offices too. I think having your own company, a side hustle, absolutely go after that. But don't forget that there's still careers out there that we can show up for as well. And it doesn't have to be being this famous influencer, putting yourself out there, being canceled in the cancel culture world of everybody judging you. Kids these days, they have it rougher than we've ever had before because they are in the
I am
spotlight all the time.
scared. I am scared to think of like, I can't imagine. I mean, fortunately, when I was growing up, all the crazy mistakes I've made and all the dumb things I did, I didn't have somebody with a camera phone following
Yeah.
me around. It wasn't
Yeah.
documented. Half of it's still not documented. So we
Yeah.
just, right. So yeah, they've got it tough. But I mean, your point about the careers and everything, they're some of my coolest, most badass friends that are women that I look at and just admire like crazy. They are in finance and insurance and CPAs and attorneys and all these careers that on paper now
Mhm.
look boring. They're not. These are some of the coolest women I know. They're awesome. They just also happen to be crazy smart and like numbers.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's really like you great point because there's so much that women can do and really be just killer at it.
Yeah, you can still have that career, that 9 to 5 career and have your business on the side or go be a keynote speaker. Or somebody asked me the other day, how are you doing like the insurance world and the podcasting? Because they're so
Right, right.
different completely. It's like one side of your brain versus the other side of your brain. How do
Right.
you mesh them in? I said, they're both part of me though. They're different parts of, I could still be this self development person who enjoys all the woo woo stuff, but also is good on the insurance side of the world. I don't have to take off one hat and put on the other hat. I can then mesh the hats together, which then shows up. If it turns into something, it turns into something. If it doesn't, you find your people that vibe with you outside of work. You're not always about work all the time.
Well, and sometimes it goes back to knowing your strengths because
Yeah.
my background's in insurance and finance as well, and I think it's a really cool career. But what I enjoyed about it was educating people and motivating people and empowering people. Well, that's kind of what led towards what I'm doing now. So it all ebbs and flows and morphs into what you want if you figure out what you're good at. And my goal is always, if it's not bringing you energy or moving you towards your goals, you probably need to say no, whether it's a
Yeah.
person, a place, a job, a career, anything. But if you're having fun with it and it's moving you forward, that's awesome. That's
Oh, yeah.
really, I mean, that's really what we should be striving for.
Absolutely. All right. So what else do you got going on outside of the book world?
Outside the book, well, I'm waiting for the world to open up so we can start reading again. But we have I have a private community, like the Renew is the podcast, and our community is really, it's personal, professional, financial development. And we're going to start doing some live events around the country where, the
Mm.
ultimate goal with this is do some summits, do some couple day long summits. And I really want, we do have a number of men in the group, but I tend to cater a lot, not cater, but gravitate a lot towards
Attract.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah, I attract more women. So we're going to do massive summits where we've got day and a half, and we're getting into finances and personal branding and like really creating a killer life. But we're also going to have a nice little cocktail party and a champagne toast and some shopping and some shoes in the middle of it too, because you've got to blend it all together.
Yes.
It's like
Oh,
all the
when you do
hats, like,
that, we want to go to that because that sounds
right?
super fun.
I know,
Yes.
I'm
And
so
definitely
excited
up my
about it.
alley.
Yes, and my
Totally.
goal is to do 5 of those. It'll probably be 2020 by the time most everything opens up. I think we can sneak in one in some of the cities that are a little bit more open, but 5 in the US. And then we're going to do, like, we're planning, it'll be probably 2 years down the road, an international retreat too. So for all the like high end, badass, awesome women that just like, you know what, we're going to combine this. We're going to do some development and have some fun, but we're going to find a really cool location.
Oh.
I'm not telling what country it's in.
Oh, that one sounds fun. But that's also how you find your tribe too, is networking and going to events like that. So if you're looking to find tribes, it's by teaming up with people or having somebody that has a like mind, have a conversation with them. They'll probably introduce you to another friend. Then they'll be like, "Oh, there's this seminar that I want to go to." That's how you find your tribe without a doubt.
Don't you think people are craving it? I always say people are craving engagement and experiences right now.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
more you can provide that, and that's what's fun, is getting to engage with people, even if
Yeah.
it's virtual, but it's going to be even better when you do it in person.
Yeah. It's like anything. You come back to life. If you haven't had a conversation with an old friend or met somebody new that you actually, it's like going on that date that meshes. But I think finding friends is so much easier than finding the one person that you're supposed to be in a
Right?
relationship with.
You do not want me commenting on that podcast. And we actually did one on dating. A friend of mine and I, and I'm like,
Oh, I
we
got to
are
do one on that. That's
losing
funny.
this topic. I'm like, oh my gosh. But
That
it
one
is,
has to be, yeah. Ugh, that world.
that's a whole nother show, because it is true, but it is about finding your people. I have not perfected it in that area of my life yet. However, the concepts are the same. It's
Yeah.
finding your people, it's being you. Because I feel like, with dating, we all show up like the little rounded out edges, perfectly packaged little package
I always
until
call it the representative shows up for the first 6 months.
I think that might be a thing. Maybe we could start something, because I feel like I'd like to actually send in a representative. That's my
Yeah.
problem.
Tell
I'm
me if
very
this is a waste of time.
Exactly. I'm very busy. I don't really have time to weed through all this nonsense. If I could send in a proxy, I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. Let's clone ourselves and then just put up the representative and then you're good to go.
I don't know. I've got a brother. I could send my brother and say, "You'll be meeting with my brother for the first couple of hours."
Oh, it's so true. And them as well. So like send in the real person.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Drop.
You just need to, maybe when you're asking somebody out or somebody's asking you out, and say, okay, I'd like us to go on our 19th date.
Yeah.
Just drop the first 18 with all the bullshit people we were
Show up not
pretending to
brushing your teeth and then we'll talk.
be. It's true, but
uh,
don't you think it all goes back to the same thing? I mean, that's the thing,
it
is
does.
it's realizing, show up as you, be
Hmm.
yourself, realize you're not for everybody, and the right people will show up.
Yeah. And what I always say to like friends too who are dating, it's like you have to realize that one person that they say you mesh with, there's how many billions of people in this world, and you're only looking at a radius on a dating app for 10 miles. Come on. What are you
Yeah,
doing? There is so many more people in this world and so many more adventures for you to go on other than just being in that relationship. So finding your tribe, I
yep,
think that should be what we're taught as young girls is find your tribe, don't find the one. Stop
right.
making movies about the one. Start making movies about badass boss bitches that found each other and then took over the world.
I think it'd be good. I mean, I'm a Hallmark movie junkie with the rest
Yeah.
of now you know how they all going to end. So
Yeah.
I have been to a couple of hardware stores in New England, and the one did not pop out at me. I used to live up there. There was no one showing up, so I apparently was doing the movie wrong. But it's true. Like we do all this stuff, but like with our when you find your girlfriends, when you find that tribe, they they're your people and they connect. And one thing I'll say about like my if I look at my closest group of girlfriends, they're all badass. They're all awesome. We are brutally honest with each other, but 100% we support each other. And
Yeah.
I tell people, I'm like, if you want to know who my tribe is, look at my social media posts. They are the ones that like, so proud of you. I love you. You did good. That's what you want. Like
Yeah.
if your tribe is not making you feel like a rock star, you probably got the wrong tribe. And if you feel
Absolutely.
like a rock star, you're going to go out and attract, you'll find the one, the two, the three, the 18, because you're going to attract that kind of energy.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we start to find that as we get older, but hopefully the young ones start finding that,
Girl, you're
like you
still
said.
young. That's what I'm saying. A lot
No,
of
I mean, I have some. I have definitely, and it's through networking. It comes
people,
through, that's where you find your real people, not the people that you molded with and feel like those connections, if you've had them for life, those are special connections that you
oh
have. But
yeah.
as you get older and things change, finding friends is hard because you're not, if you don't have the kid on your hip to be able to be like, oh, they threw up too, at a certain age.
Well, I think if you're in the right place, like if you
Yeah.
really know what excites you and what, and it's accidental. A lot of my closest girlfriends, I was fortunate enough to be picked for this over 40 issue of a magazine here in Atlanta a couple years
Oh,
ago.
I saw that.
Yeah, we did this photo shoot, and it was some of my closest friends came out of that photo shoot and that
Yeah.
group. And these are people I've known not even 2 years yet, and they are literally some of my closest relationships because the way they picked it was based on professional, personal, and philanthropic, which means these were all highly driven career people
Hmm.
that gave back to the community. And the personal part was that they took care of themselves. They were I'm not real fitness oriented, but they took care of themselves. They
Yeah.
cared about their appearance and how they were. Well, those were things important to me. So it kind of curated my own little group of friends. So
Yeah.
if you really know what's important to you, whether it's a hobby or what have you, I did martial arts too. I met a lot of great friends through there. You just gotta go do you. Do the thing that you really set you on fire. Your people will be there.
Yeah, and coming back to refinding yourself. So if you felt like you've lost yourself, refind yourself. When you start to find the things you enjoy, you'll start to find the people that are your tribe and your life literally becomes unstoppable from there on out.
But let me give you a hint, not you, but everybody listening, a hint to that is make sure you're finding what you enjoy. Because
Mm.
I'm really into therapy. Like I've had a lot of therapy over the years. And I remember working with a therapist and he's like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? So I
I
named
hate
it,
that question.
right? It was a beautiful question. But he said, what do you like to do? So I told him what I like to do. He goes, uh-huh. What are your hobbies? I was like, I just told you. And he goes, you told me your daughter's hobbies.
Ooh.
Because what I was realizing is every single thing I named had something to do with somebody else. So it was
Mm.
never anything that I picked out for me. It was ones like, oh, my friends are doing tennis. I'll play tennis. I played tennis on the tennis team here for a while. It was terrible. I hated it. I'm awful at tennis. I was good for the snacks, terrible at tennis. So, finally I got to the point, why am I on this tennis team? I'm like, it
Yeah.
was like the last seed. It was awful. But so I stopped, but we do that. Our hobbies or interests, we stole from other people. So take some time to figure out what you're
That's a hard one, and I don't think it's something that comes over to you. It
really,
could take years to find something
yeah.
that is truly that's why I hate that question because it's something where it's like, do I like this because I like this or do I like this because somebody else that I know that I like likes it, so it makes me like it? Because
Yep.
as humans, some of us are followers. There's very few, I'm not going to say very few leaders, but really in the things that we enjoy because if we are connected with somebody, we want to try out their stuff and then it ultimately some
Mhm.
subconscious says that we like it too. Meanwhile, you're like, I hate rock climbing. Why am I here? I
Right.
don't like the outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the camping. But I think,
Yeah.
like we know when we're doing it. What,
Yeah.
like the question to ask yourself was, would you do it if you were by yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, I probably wouldn't rock climb by myself. That's probably not safe, but you know what I mean? But like, is it what to, it's hard. Hobbies are hard to find,
Yeah.
but I think, something that you really enjoy doing. I mean, a hobby can be reading a book. I don't know. It can be anything.
It could literally a hobby can be if you like Grey's Anatomy, you put Grey's Anatomy on. It's checking in with yourself and something that you enjoy doing. If it's,
Yep.
having a full plate of food at the end of the day, that's your hobby.
Nice
That's your
glass of
hobby.
wine at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
that's it.
Yeah.
All right. I know you and I can start to talk all day long. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see where this book goes. When you are starting to travel around, let us know so we can show up so I can get a nice signature from you.
Yeah.
And then these retreats as well. Where can everybody find you about the show? Tell us where we could find you. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the things.
I am on everything. I'm not active on TikTok. I know.
Come on, can you
My
start
kids
doing
are
them with me?
getting it. They're like, we've done a few of the dances, but that's been it. No. So best places, I'm very active on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. So it's Andree Group, ANDREE Group. And then the book that You're Not for Everyone, we've got a page, same thing on Facebook and Instagram. You're Not for Everyone. So that's the
Perfect.
best way. But I love to connect with people. So comment, DM, let me know. Don't send me crazy DMs. Women don't. It's not the women sending the crazy DMs. I'll say
No,
that. But
no.
no, love to connect.
Perfect. Well, it was been a pleasure. I can't wait to talk to you again. I thank you for being